The Pinup and the Peril, the 1943 Grable extortion case. Okay, let's dive right into this true crime explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating piece of history, one that mixes high society Hollywood glamour with what turns out to be a surprisingly clumsy, kind of comical extortion plot. Seriously, it's a story of high-stakes threats, intense federal agents, and just an unbelievable series of criminal miscalculations, all set against the incredibly glitzy backdrop of 1940s Los Angeles. This is an extortion, under threat of your life or great bodily harm. Terrifying, right? I mean, imagine opening your mail on a beautiful, sunny morning in LA and reading those exact words. And this wasn't some script from a hard-boiled noir film playing at the local theater. Nope. This was a very real, very dangerous letter sent directly to one of the absolute biggest celebrities of the era. So who was the target of this chilling threat? None other than Betty Grable. If you don't know, back in 1943, Grable was an absolute sensation. We're talking the ultimate wartime pinup girl. She was a wildly popular actress, model, singer, dancer, basically the whole shebang. She wasn't just famous, she was literally an icon of American glamour during World War II. Massive box office hits like Down Argentina Way and Tin Pan Alley had completely cemented her superstar status, and she was already hard at work on Sweet Rosie O'Grady. She was, without a doubt, at the absolute pinnacle of Hollywood royalty. To put her immense fame into perspective for a second, $1 million. Think about that. That was an absolutely astronomical sum in 1943. Betty Grable was actually just months away from having her famous legs insured with Lloyd's of London for that staggering amount. So because she was such a high-profile, high-value target, a threat against her, yeah, that was taken with the utmost seriousness.
Part 1. The first threat. Enter the Leo.
This first letter laid out some incredibly specific high-stakes demands. The extortionist, who signed off mysteriously as the Leop, demanded $25,000. But get this, not in standard cash. They specifically wanted uncut diamonds. It's like something straight out of a movie villain's playbook, right? So these uncut diamonds were to be mailed in 2 envelopes addressed to a Jonathan C. Wilde Esquire, and the drop-off location was set at the Gates Hotel, right at the bustling intersection of 5th and Figueroa, down in LA. Now, here is where our criminal makes their first monumental error. Because the Leos sent this threat through the U.S. mail system, well, that's a direct violation of the Federal Extortion Act. That immediately triggered a massive, full-scale FBI investigation. Federal agents in Los Angeles quietly and methodically set up this invisible trap over at the Gates Hotel. They secured the perimeter, they're waiting to nab the culprit, the tension is super high, and then nothing. Nothing happened. The extortionist completely ghosted the FBI. They never even showed up to claim the diamonds. Part 2. 1 month later, snow strikes. So, a full month goes by. The trail seems to go cold, and everyone kind of breathes a sigh of relief. But then, bam, a second, even more urgent letter suddenly arrives right at Betty Grable's doorstep. It says, bring $5,000 or you will not be alive on the 20th. Now notice that sudden massive drop in the ransom amount? We just plummeted from 25,000 uncut diamonds down to just $5,000 in cash. And this time the letter is signed with a new, undeniably creepy alias, Snow. Quite the pivot from the clunky The Leap, huh? The instructions from Snow were incredibly precise and honestly, deeply unsettling. The new drop was scheduled for March 19th at exactly 9:40 a.m. Grable was told to go north on Gower Street, exactly half a block south of Santa Monica Boulevard. The extortionist stated they would be waiting there, leaning right against the cemetery wall. Yikes, that is a very specific, chillingly quiet place for a mid-morning shakedown.
Part 3. The Gower Street Sting.
Okay, so the FBI was absolutely not going to let this guy slip away a second time. They deployed what was, for 1943 anyway, totally cutting-edge high-tech surveillance. I mean, they drew up these exact, meticulous charts to plan the operation down to the second. They set up a 16mm camera equipped with this massive telephoto lens just to record the trap being sprung. You had agents armed with high-power binoculars, portable walkie-talkies, radio-equipped cars just blanketing the neighborhood. They even had agents heavily disguised on site, literally posing as everyday gardeners and grave diggers right next to that cemetery wall. It's like something out of a spy novel. And right on schedule, 9:40 a.m., a shiny blue sedan approaches the designated drop spot. A brown package is tossed right out the window. The suspect reaches for it, and instantly the disguised agents move in. The gravediggers drop their shovels, the radio cars converge from all sides, and boom! The FBI trap is successfully sprung. So
who was the terrifying mastermind behind The Leap and Snow? Who was this phantom haunting one of Hollywood's biggest stars? Well, it turns out it was an 18-year-old amateur named Russell Eugene Alexanderson. Yep, he literally ran right into the arms of the federal agents. Alexanderson quickly pled guilty to the charges, and, because of his super young age and undoubtedly the entirely amateurish nature of his crimes, the judge actually handed down a pretty light sentence of just 5 years probation.
Part 4. A bizarre final twist.
Now, you really have to ask yourself, after being targeted and caught in an incredibly elaborate FBI sting operation, we're talking undercover gravediggers, radio cars, telephoto cameras, did 18-year-old Russell Eugene Alexanderson learn his lesson?
The answer to that is a resounding no. No way. In a truly absurd twist, despite being on federal probation, he immediately turned around and sent Betty Grable yet another extortion note. I mean, you can't make this up. Only this time, his demand had shrunk down to a mere $500. Obviously, unsurprisingly, the FBI arrested him yet again. And this time, there was absolutely no leniency, no probation. He was sentenced directly to prison. The sheer absurdity of Alexander Kerson's criminal career is just perfectly captured by his plummeting ransom demands, right? He starts out with this massive, grand vision of $25,000 in uncut diamonds. A month later, he panics, downgrading to $5,000 in cash. And then finally, after already being caught and convicted, he tries his luck one last time for just $500. Honestly, it's a literal masterclass in exactly how not to commit a crime.
Which really leaves us with this final thought. We've seen the high-tech sting, we've seen the Hollywood glamour, but looking at Russell Eugene Alexanderson, we really have to wonder, what exactly drives a person to immediately repeat the very same crime they just got caught for? It's a completely bizarre psychological footnote in what is otherwise a truly captivating piece of history. Well, thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking those questions. I'll see you next time.